welcome back. I want to take a look at something called percent yield. So percent yield is very helpful because it tells us how efficient a reaction is. But there's a few things that we need in order to solve for percent yield. First, we need to know the theoretical yield of our reaction, which, remember, the theoretical yield is the maximum amount of product that could be formed in a reaction. And that's based off of the limiting reactant, and it's based off of stoichiometry. So this is based on stoichiometry. It's based on math. That's why it's the maximum amount of product that can be formed. However, there's another yield known as the experimental or actual yield. Both of those terms are interchangeable, the experimental or the actual yield. And that is the actual amount of product obtained experimentally. And the actual or experimental yield should always be less than the theoretical yield, because the theoretical yield is the maximum amount of product that could be made. It's all based on math. The experimental yield is the amount that's actually found in practice in a lab. And remember, in experiments, we always have error. Our experiment is never going to yield exactly 100% product. So we can compare these two to find the percent yield. And all that we have to do is take our experimental yield over our theoretical yield, and multiply by 100. And again, the reason that percent yield is important is it tells us how efficient our reaction is. So it tells us how efficient our reaction is. So the closer our percent yield is to 100, the more accurate our experiment has been. You should not get a percent yield above 100% because, again, the experimental value should always be less than the theoretical value. So let's try a quick example, and I will just give you the values to work with. So let's say that the theoretical yield that we solved mathematically for nitrogen is 10.7 grams. And then we did the lab, and experimentally, we found that we only obtained 8.35 grams of nitrogen. And we want to know, what is the percent yield of this reaction? So I would take 8.35 because it's my experimental yield over 10.7 because it's my theoretical yield, multiply by 100, and that will give me a percent yield of 78.0%. So the closer your percent yield is to 100, the more efficient your experiment is. If you have any other questions or you want to check out how to solve this problem completely from scratch, check out some other examples on my page. Thank you so much for visiting my channel.